Hey, welcome back to Maybe Actually Museums Are For Me. I'm Alex, host of the podcast, and I'm coming back at you after what I would consider a sad week for the podcast. As you know, if you're a weekly listener, last week I didn't have a new episode for you. This is not that week. We have something new for you, which is exciting. But if you did listen to that episode, you would know that I was talking kind of, broadly about how we're entering the summer here. Well, we've been in the summer. We're not entering the summer, but we're in the summer here at MAM. And when summer rolls around, we tend to rotate galleries and exhibitions, and things get a little sparse. And that's why, we drop our ticket price and we encourage people to see what shows we do have on view, which are, I would say, much more available than they were last year. And that's really exciting, and it's a really great time to have an intimate experience at the museum. But obviously, I think people always have questions about, what takes so long to rotate a show? Why not in the summer? What's the point of rotating so frequently? Or in some instances, not rotating at all frequently. And I'm really thrilled to have friend of the pod, consistent guest, TikTok star, Audrey, to join me for this episode. Audrey's on mic already, so hi, Audrey.
Hi, Alex. Good to see you again.
Oh, it's always a pleasure.
You guys better follow us on TikTok.
Yep, we have 2 accounts. You have to find them. But anyway, that's besides the point. Audrey, introduce yourself for those who don't know you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Audrey. I am the curatorial assistant here at MAM. So I help Gail and Laura, our curators on site, to develop the shows, do the research, and all of the extra work that goes along with putting up an exhibition.
And there is a lot of work, indeed. So I guess jumping right in, when it's time to close a show, which we've clearly entered that point here at MAM, what are the basic procedures that you guys in Curatorial are like keeping in mind, looking out for, kind of just like going through the motions of to make sure a show is set? Because I think sometimes when visitors come, maybe like a week or second week after a show, they might poke their head in. They might see kind of like the opening, and from afar, it looks like the show's still up, even though as being, staffers here, we know that's not the case. But for an uninformed audience, could you just explain to them what's happening behind the scenes in those early days?
Yeah, I think everything takes a while because it's 2, 3, 10 times the effort, the steps, the planning that you would think it would be. This is kind of like Osana and Katie's domain, our registrars. But, our team does a lot of work all together to make sure this happens, because all of the installations require different kinds of planning. For like something like the New Jersey Fine Arts Annual. Mm-hmm. That was 61 different artists who need to be coordinated to come pick up their work. Some of those artworks were bought or sold while they were up on the walls at MAM.
Oh,
so
you have to. That's crazy.
So you coordinate with a gallery, you coordinate with gallery assistants, each person has their own individual needs. Some of them have full-time jobs. So, some shows have a deinstall process that's a little bit like that. And you have to think about the size and how that's going to impact how long it takes to move the work out of the space. And Osana and Katie are really good about being meticulous to make sure that each work of art does not get damaged in any way. Some of the artworks that come down require conservation work. Some of them need to be reframed, Well,
I don't think so. Like, I learned this just through doing the show, but like, I didn't even realize that like works need to rest sometimes. Like, I didn't realize like a watercolor work, for example, needs to be like put away from sunlight. Well, like, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so you don't really think about it. I mean, even in the case of Nanette Carter's show, I know we had a little bit of a challenge in that the dryness of the galleries was actually a problem. So you have humidifiers or dehumidifiers in the gallery based on the exhibition, the needs of the exhibition, and works can start to curl up, or like you said, sun damage, like degrading pigments in paintings. So there are all of these things that need to be considered. And then even with the transport of the works. So Osana and Katie handle insurance and talking to shipping companies, and things like that can be impacted by the political state of the country, the tariffs, the sanctions, things like that. These are things that need to be considered far in advance to make sure we have all of our bases covered.
No, it's absolutely true. And Katie talked about that a little bit with me when we did our episode on loans and the process of getting, like, say, our sergeant from not ma'am, obviously, but like getting our sergeant from the Met to Europe to then back. And it's like, it's a lot of hands.
Making sure that, if there's time in between one show and the next show, that there is somewhere safe for that artwork to be kept, where it's temperature controlled and humidity controlled. And even Nanette is setting up some of her work. So she actually just came in yesterday to deinstall her show. Some artists prefer to be on site to help deinstall the show rather than letting the registrars do it on their own. And for Nanette in particular, she has a show coming up at the Wexner, so she wanted to pack everything in a way that made it easy to unpack and reinstall for the next exhibition.
Yeah, and if for an audience, obviously this is a audio medium, so if you're curious about like visually what Audrey and I are kind of talking about is in particular with Nanette on our YouTube channel, you can just search the Montclair Art Museum. There's a video of Nanette actually putting up the work, so you can kind of get a good idea of what it's going to look like coming down.
Yeah, so to explain, I guess, Nanette's work is a lot of oil on mylar that goes directly onto the wall.
Like literally stuck on, like stickers or tape,
rather than being in a frame or something like that. So yeah, all of those things are factors.
So Audrey, what is like, okay, what is like the timeline for transforming an exhibition space from one show to the other? Because like obviously, I think the way that I would have presumed it is that it all kind of happens rapid fire, in the sense where the show's off, let's figure out what to put up next. And in actuality, it's a much more long and drawn out process. Let's just say for Tom Nussbaum, which is coming up.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit in like very broad strokes, A to Z, pun not intended. When did the planning start versus when will the thing actually like occur? Like explain to people how long these shows actually are like in the oven for.
I mean, I could answer this question a few different ways. You want to talk about when the planning started? A year and a half ago. Yeah. You want to talk about, our registrars are good at their job. So sometimes you do see the works come down and the new works go up within a few days, but
it has to happen sometimes.
But the galleries need to be closed for 2 months, I mean, more than that, depending on the exhibition. I know for Interwoven, a big part of that show in particular was how the work was displayed, because we were kind of trying to present these native objects in a different way than we had in the past. So for a show like that, you have to think about renovating the space, putting in new lighting. With every show, you have to adjust the lighting in the space. You have to repaint the walls. Laura had all new custom platforms built to display the artwork. I mean, that takes months. We have a great team, but you want to be meticulous. You want to be careful, make sure little things that you wouldn't even consider are accounted for. Even after opening, sometimes it's things like, maybe the elevated label that goes along with that platform is too high, and we can't really see the art object behind it as well as we would like to. It's things like that maybe don't even come up until you put all of the objects into the exhibition space,
or until the show's actually underway,
the show is up, and you have to either hustle to meet the opening date, or you have to work on it in an ongoing kind of way.
Yeah. And so I guess obviously like there's that sort of plan that goes into it. I guess besides thinking about like the pre-production, we'll call it.
Mm-hmm.
So A to Z comes down, Nanette Carter comes down. When does when do Tom's work start rolling in?
Yeah, I guess I didn't really answer your question.
No, stop it. It's fine.
Tom's works have already started coming in. He started bringing things in maybe about a month ago. In his case, a lot of the works are from his personal collection, so they had to be brought to the museum. You know, maybe some of these have been in storage for a while, and they have to be cleaned by our conservators, and they have to kind of be prepped before we can even think about where they're going to go and how we're going to put them up. Then a lot of artists, when it's a retrospective like this, they bring in archival items and things like that. So,
I mean, Nanette brought in like a T-shirt,
exactly,
like from like high school.
Yeah, things that they know they have that they think provides context for their artwork, for their life, their exhibition. And so they work with the curators and the registrars months in advance to make sure that all of these things are accounted for, that there's enough space in the glass cases and things like that.
I'm guessing that it's not just kind of like, I don't know, I have no like interior design brain. So like, I'm guessing it's not necessarily like, all right, we have all the pieces. Let's see where they fit in the space. I'm guessing there's like dioramas and stuff.
There are dioramas. That's actually such a fun part for me. I love dioramas. Always have.
Did you do like the shoe boxes in elementary school?
I did do the shoe boxes in elementary school. I was obsessed with dioramas when I was little. So we do have miniature versions of the galleries. I know we've also worked with digital gallery plans before.
Or not Nanette's. I know Interwoven had a digital floor plan.
And I think a lot of places do that, but sometimes it can be really useful to have a physical model.
Who builds the physical models?
Those were built years ago.
So it's not, you're not building like a new one every time.
No, so we have the layouts of each gallery space, and then every time we have a new exhibition, I get a checklist. I make little tiny versions of all of the pieces of art. So for Tom's, because a lot of them are sculpture, he came in with little models, miniature scaled versions of his works, and we have to make sure there's space. We have to play around, see what they look like. So there's a lot of that kind of planning. You know, you want to organize things in a way that tells the story that you want to tell. So sometimes things get changed around later in the game to suit something like the catalog better, to make the story flow a little bit more.
Yeah. All right, Audrey. You've kind of answered all of my questions within your answers, which is great. I have one or two more questions. Mm-hmm. Again, thank you for always being willing to jump in the pond whenever I need a guest. So I have this memory of you. Mm-hmm. It was probably your second or third week, maybe somewhere in your first month or so of like working at the museum. And I guess Interwoven must not have been up yet, or there was something happening. It was probably Interwoven that I was doing behind the scenes video for, and at the same time the NJ Arts Annual was going up. And I remember I was filming in Interwoven, and that was a large chunk of my life during that season. But at the same time of Interwoven being like wildly transformed, NJ Arts was going up, and that was a huge show also that like I don't think the credit gets placed where credit is due. Like two massive shows going up at the exact same time, and it's, you know, what, like 6 of you guys at a time, maybe
yeah,
like
less sometimes.
Like it's crazy. And I remember I was walking with Osana through what at the time was NJ Arts and has since become and will no longer now be Nanette Carter. But we're walking from the elevator lobby, and I saw you and Katie with the spools of yarn. That was one of the works. It was like these 3 dresses on the wall, and they were like pinned to the wall, mm-hmm. and they all had like individual like strings of yarn that were going to these spools, and it was so like delicate and intricate. And I remember just like kind of chuckling to myself, or like maybe we even talked about it in the moment, but like that was just like such a tedious and like probably stressful job. And I guess my question is like, when it comes to like installing a show, obviously that's not your main role. Like you're almost like kind of doing clerical work and like assisting the curators, but like you have to get your hands dirty. And so like what are one of your favorite memories of putting up a show? And maybe it's like a behind the scenes kind of thing that like no one would even like think that you would have to be doing. But like what is one of those things?
Okay, you know what's funny? Honestly, that's like one of my favorite parts. I love being involved in the installation process. So in that particular case, the artist, I think, sometimes the artists really, really want to be involved every step of the way.
Totally, yeah.
But some of them don't really mind. Like they're kind of like, go ahead. We had to basically go through, there were all of these spoolies with thread on them, and we had to go through and connect them to the corresponding color that was a thread dangling from the work that was on the wall. And it took me and Katie probably like a good 3-4 days
for one work
to figure that out, because at first you think it's a color that matches. We had to make sure, and then it ends up not being the right color. We had to make sure that they were taut, that the strings were taut but not so tight that it was yanking the piece off the wall.
Yeah.
And there were a few projects that I was kind of helping to install. I remember around the same time when Interwoven was going up, we needed some extra hands to install one of the installations, and I got to work with a contracted employee of the museum who was actually the niece of some of the artists that were on display in Interwoven.
Whoa.
So I kind of got this, I mean, I get that I'm backstage anyway, but I got this sort of backstage pass, this cool experience where I got to hear about her connection to the artwork and how it felt to be, really genuinely part of the community that was being given this platform, this space for the artwork.
I mean, is it also surreal for you, like, you studied art history and stuff, like I know we've talked about it in the past, but you literally studied Nanette Carter.
Yeah.
And so like, is it like a surreal thing getting to work so directly with these artists, or is it kind of something that has the wildness of it has almost faded?
Maybe this is a symptom of our generation's propensity for parasocial relationships. But I do kind of feel like the few artists that I've met, I feel like sometimes if you've studied them already, you kind of know who they are.
No, I get it.
If you have a good understanding of their artwork, you know. But it has been really cool to.
Do you think that having like too much information is like a good thing, or like do you think it almost like stunts your ability to like connect with them if you're having this already like pretty like intimate?
You mean like, do I get starstruck?
No, I mean like in the sense where it's like you already feel like you know this person. Like, is there almost like nothing to talk about, or is there so much to talk about?
I am like really chronically curious about people.
Fair enough.
So I think it excites me to know some things about. I know what they might be interested in talking about. The kinds of art that I like that they also like. So for me, it's exciting.
I'm just curious because like I have to talk to a lot of artists on this show, and it's something I adore and I love. And the impetus of the show was like, oh, I'm supposed to be, and again, like this was never like a one-to-one thing, but it was kind of like the on paper description, like the pitch that we would give people was like, oh, it's like the like blissfully ignorant like guy who just likes art, who doesn't know anything about actually knows anything about art.
I don't see you that way, but go on.
No, I'm not saying that that's what it is, but I'm saying like that was kind of like the initial pitch was like, oh, like guy doesn't know much about art, but he's been thrust into the art world. Now he has to talk to these like professional artists. Like that, I think, is some of the charm of the show. Obviously, like I'm more informed than I was when I started. And even when I started, that was like a bit of an act. Even like the listeners are getting like now with like the fourth wall's breaking a little bit. But like essentially like the one thing though that I do carry forward, and I think it helps me give interviews, and I wonder if this is just like a difference between the two of us and like our styles, or also just the fact that you're so in like we're both in this world, but you're like really like knee deep in the world. But essentially like I try to remain as, I don't want to say uninformed, but underinformed as possible about who I'm talking to, because I think that almost opens myself up to more genuine conversations. And so like, I don't know, take Sarah Sense, for example. I had to go out to California to film with her. I went to her home. I was with her and her family for 3 days. Obviously, I had to do some studying. Like I couldn't just walk in and be like, what do you do? Like, who are you? Like that would be foolish. And so like I did take a lot of time to like learn about her art, learn about who she was, learn about her style. But like largely I tried to remain curious and remain sort of in a position where like I'm learning more so than I'm reaffirming, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that tends to happen a lot. I guess I'm curious, like if you have that same feeling, or do you think for you is it just going in feeling like gives you more of an opportunity to learn?
Like you said, you have to do a little bit of preparation, but I think we've talked about this on the podcast before. Like I very much see curating as taking the viewer along with you as you ask questions. Like I don't think it's as much about asserting something as it is about, doing your best to learn about something and show someone that process. Just keep asking as many questions as possible. And I think a lot of the time, quote unquote, good art does that same thing where you leave the piece feeling maybe like you have more questions than you did when you started. So yeah, I think it's important to stay curious, and you don't want to go into anything feeling like you know everything about the artist, and you can always get more context. One of the really cool things about working under Gail, who has been here for 30 years, is that she has such close connections with a lot of the artists we work with. I mean, Gail and Tom Nussbaum have known each other for 30 years.
Yeah.
And Gail still doesn't feel like she knows everything about Tom, but she understands his vibe in a sense where she can give him maybe the language and the context and the guidance to tell his story the way he wants to tell his story. They inform each other,
Yeah.
It's a dialogue.
I love the direction this conversation took. Thank you, Audrey. I appreciate you. What can people expect to see in the next season at MAM?
I have my list here. Okay. So in the fall, we have Tom Nussbaum's But Wait, There's More, which is...
There's much more.
There's so much more. If you have been to MAM, then you'll recognize Tom by the large head sculpture outside our front door.
It's a very famous piece.
Very famous piece. It's called Listen. Very interesting piece. We have Christine Romanel's Sacred Transition. It's an installation in Laurie Art Stairway. It's kind of modeled after these ideas of sacred Islamic geometry and light. It changes throughout the day. It's all of these moving parts. We have new sculptural and multimedia works in the new rotation of Interwoven Power. We have a show featuring the artist J.P. Terlizzi's photography. He was actually in the New Jersey Fine Arts Annual.
Ooh, fun.
That's going to be in McMullen West. And, of course, we still have, new works in media and George Innes, Visionary Landscapes, and Family Community Belonging that are going to be on in an ongoing manner. So
it closes in 26, right?
Family Community Belonging, yeah.
Do we know what's replacing it, or can you not say?
I don't know if I'm supposed to say yet.
Okay, fair enough. Our suspense will remain. Thank you again, Audrey. I appreciate you. This has been Maybe Actually Museums Are For Me. You can listen to us here, well, I was going to say on Apple Podcasts, but essentially wherever you listen to podcasts, Spotify, Apple, YouTube, etc. The museum is open Friday, Saturdays, and Sundays to the public, that being our galleries. Right now this summer, as per the impetus of this episode, tickets are $8. So see Family Community Belonging, see Interwoven Power, see Platinum to Postcards, see, for I think a limited time, George Innes. Okay. I think we have to close it for like a little bit to like do
Innes
some rotations.
is going to be closed briefly at some point during the summer
Yeah.
because we're going to be installing all around it. So.
Yeah, so just keep an eye out on the website if you're coming to see George Innes, because I know a lot of people do come just to see George Innes. for good reason. So anyway, this has been Maybe Actually Museums Are For Me. Thank you again, Audrey. I appreciate you. And tune in every Wednesday at 10 a.m. We have more episodes. Time will tell if there will be a new episode or a re-airing next week, but we'll find out. Anyway, bye.
Bye.